Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's series, part of Artists in Conversation. I'm just gonna invite the artist who will join us today. Hello to everybody again. Welcome to today's session. Hi, Anne.
Hi,
It's
how are
nice
you?
to. I'm good, thanks. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you.
It's really nice to talk to you and to see you. I was just going to introduce you a little bit and just say
Okay.
that so today's event, as some of you may have seen, is called Disrupting the Photographic World. And I'm joined here by a really inspiring woman called Anne Nwakalor, who will present today her magazine and platform called Wahala, which is the first African contemporary photography magazine. So we're just going to talk a little bit about self-publishing, about starting your own organization, about accessibility and education. So this is kind of the scope of today. And maybe we can wait for a few minutes for a few more people to join us. Maybe you want to say a little bit more about yourself, if that wasn't like the fullest presentation. I suppose some may have some connection difficulties. Can you
Am I
hear me?
back? Okay, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
you're back. Yeah,
Okay,
you're
great.
here. Okay, cool. Maybe we can give it a start and people can watch after in the
Yeah,
replay.
yeah.
Okay, cool. So yeah,
Sounds
thanks
good.
once again for agreeing to be a part. It's really great to see you again.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's great. I wish we can also be together in the physical world and meet
Yeah,
as well. But yeah, hopefully that will happen too.
soon.
Yeah, cool. So maybe we can start from the beginning, I suppose, and maybe you can like just give us a few, pointers or just like a little bit of how it all started with Noahala,
Okay,
and like why did you start this organization as well?
yeah. Okay, yeah, that's fine. So Noah Halla, I always say this. Noah Halla started with a bit of a mental breakdown. I just moved back to Nigeria. I just like entered, I had graduated from uni, moved back to Nigeria, and I had entered the development space as a communications officer. And I just felt as if my creative juices were literally going down the drain. I spent many years taking pictures and building up fantasies in my head of how life would be. Um, and things weren't exactly going that route, and I had accepted it. So one day, my husband mentioned, "Why don't you start a photography magazine?" Because he realized that I was getting really down and I was complaining a lot. And he said this because I talk a lot about pictures. So as opposed to taking pictures, I'm more into talking about pictures, analyzing pictures. I'm more into the oh gosh, there's a word. I'm more into the process, the image making process, as opposed to taking pictures. That's more of what I'm into. So when he gave that suggestion, I was like, you know what, that's actually a really good idea. I've experimented with zines, I've experimented with magazines, and yeah, I would love to have a magazine where I can talk more about images and the image making process. Another thing to mention is that I'm really deeply into the ethical storytelling side, how to tell visual stories ethically. And I really wanted a platform where I could share, different articles and different educational resources on ethical storytelling and basically getting African photographers seen by industry professionals because for centuries we've had an influx of photographers from the West flying into African countries and telling their stories and then flying back to wherever they're from and winning awards. You know what I mean? And then those that they've taken pictures of are still in the same state. And there's so many amazing African photographers on ground. And I really believed, you know what, these people need to be seen. If there's a story happening in Ghana or Uganda, instead of, you know, shipping someone over, why don't you use a capable photographer on ground who will be able to tell that story ethically and get more access and be able to get a bit more depth? Or if you are adamant on flying over a photographer, why can't you collaborate? Why can't that photographer collaborate with an African photographer on ground? So that's literally how everything started. I realized an issue, an issue that has been going on for centuries. And I just thought, you know what, this is something I strongly believe in. And okay, there's a bit of a gap. There's no photography magazines in Nigeria. There's not many in Africa. So yeah, why don't I start something and use it as a platform to get African photographers seen? And now it's expanded into so much more, which I'm sure I'll talk a bit about later on during our live.
Yeah, okay. For some reason, I hear it quite distant. I don't know why. Like the sound just went.
Oh, can you hear me now?
It's still a bit distant. Maybe it's from me. I really hope it's from my phone.
I'm not sure if I'm sounding faint to anyone else. I can remove these headphones.
No, it's just my phone.
Can you hear me now? Should I remove the headphones? How does it sound?
Maybe if you are without headphones.
Is it better?
I still hear quite like low, like distant.
But am I audible?
I think I think it's better now. I suppose, yeah.
Okay then.
Okay, cool. I think what you were saying made me think about how it's not just, you know, about like asking and giving opportunities to people.
Sorry, you froze for a bit. What was that? Yeah.
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah. Now I can hear you.
Okay. I was just saying that I think that like just this problem that starts to considering that, you know, starts to work around of how for centuries people would, you know, be given the commission or breathe or, you know, opportunity to fly to somewhere else and do work about the community or land that has nothing to do, you know, with their own culture or with their own like heritage. I think that's also like, you know, in a way, it's not just about the problematics of this, but it's also about, you know, as I think in your own work and writing, which is a part of the magazine, you speak about that and specifically about representation and how it's a lot about representation really, and how representation is formed by someone from the outside, by someone from the inside, like how there is like a massive difference. And, you know, like of course that's like a big portion as well of ethics, but I think I think often stories would be mistold or people would be misrepresented because like simply the who would step in wouldn't actually have enough context or knowledge or history to understand, you know, the space they're going in, which is unfortunately still ongoing, like that's still happening.
Yeah, definitely. And that's an issue that that's an issue that I identified a long time ago and many people are aware of, but I feel as if it's just been normalized. And I don't think that's correct, because, you know, there's cases where people have flown into, let's say, Nigeria, and they've photographed a certain thing that has been happening on ground. Everyone knows, sure, we have some issues of insecurity in Nigeria. But the thing is, they fly in and they haven't fully educated themselves on the history of the country. Does it make sense? So it's like you fly in and you just focus on one aspect of that country, and then you take it back and it's blown up. And then that country is generalized by that one aspect when there's so much more to do with that country. I always talk about Rwanda. You know, many people fly into Rwanda and they're still talking about the genocide. Does it make sense? But Rwanda, there's so much more to Rwanda than the genocide. The technology scene in Rwanda is booming. There's so many, you know, the youth culture in Rwanda is booming. There's so many cool night spaces going on. But many people will still fly in and they'll talk about genocide and they'll go back. And that's literally the only thing you think of when you think of those countries. And this whole, trope of poverty and suffering and, starvation. When people think of Africa, that's still the image that comes to their mind: skinny children with big bellies because they're malnourished. And it's like, you know what? We need to move past that. There's so much more to African countries than that. And I really strongly believe that photography has a really strong role to play in that perception. I made a point. I said photography and colonization go hand in hand because photography was invented during that time. Does it make sense? Photographers were going and they were taking pictures of Africans and using it to study them as if they were animals. So there's so many issues that are still ongoing. And I understand that organizations and NGOs and whatever are making a conscious effort to be more inclusive and to hire more African photographers and stuff. But my question is, when you're writing that brief for that photographer that you're commissioning, what is in the brief? Do you still want them to get those stereotypical images and stuff? So that's also another aspect to know Wahala Magazine, where we basically make content to organizations, for organizations and for INGOs and publications, on basically seeing ways in which they can reconstruct their own mindset and their own constructed ideas of how African countries should be presented, and the briefs that they write for photographers when they're commissioning photographers to take pictures of something happening within the continent.
Yeah, I think that's such like fantastic work. And going back to the previous things you said, I think like what you said, but just in one word, it's literally how allowing for foreigners or people who are outside these cultures to step in. It's always unfortunately coming hand by hand with stereotypes and inevitably tied to this. And in a way, like my own personal opinion is that it's actually quite hard and challenging for someone external to deal with history that's not theirs in a way. Like it's not that you can't do it, but I feel like you have to have like years of studying these things in order to go in and work with it. Or at least that's what I will do. And I feel comfortable to talk about the history of my own country. I can't really go and talk about the histories of others. And I think the point as well with photography is quite interesting, of how photography is almost like a knife with two blades. In the same time, it has been this vicious tool that has reinforced racism. It has been part of so many terrible things and ways of misrepresenting people. But in the same time, it's so powerful that you can use it in the other way around as well, when it's given to people who aren't like in these positions of power dynamics from the past specifically. And I was thinking also about, for example, if you think about the Christian missionaries that were going to Africa and who were photographing, and they weren't like necessarily falling in the category of the scientists or anthropologists, and yet their photographs are equally the same disaster, the same. I can't even find like the correct word to describe it, but they can trick you to believe that they're doing like some kind of a good work, or that they're caring.
Like they're the savior, white saviorism.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And it's funny that you mentioned that, because I made a post a while ago saying I've been going through some African photographers' work and I'm still seeing white saviorism within it. I like that image of I don't know, like even photographers on ground are still taking those kind of white saviorism, Western gaze type of images, because that's what they're used to seeing of their own country, even though they understand their country more than anyone else. And even though there's a special connection, the images that they're so used to seeing, winning World Press Photo Awards and being part of archives in agencies, is that kind of white saviorism, Western gaze kind of image, that kind of image where you take a picture of someone and you make them to be an other, make them to be something exotic. And people on ground are still taking pictures like that, and they don't even realize that it's wrong. In their minds, that's photojournalism, or that's documentary photography. So it's really a lot of damage that has been done. And there's a lot of unlearning that still needs to be done by many photographers, regardless of what your skin color is or what you identify as. when I moved back to Nigeria, I consciously became aware that I had a Western gaze towards Nigeria. I was brought up in the UK. And I had to unlearn certain things and certain ways that I would take pictures of other Nigerians. So I think, it's a conscious effort to try to unlearn certain things. And yeah, I definitely get what you're saying in terms of being more connected to things happening in your own country and things on ground. And I just feel like people need to be consciously aware of how they're photographing those things, regardless of whether you're from that place or not.
Mm. No, totally. And
Yeah.
I think you also raised another great point, many great points. One of which is this conscious learning and consciously, understanding the things that you do. Because
Yeah.
unfortunately, photography and many other things, if not, all things in the world, have been established with frameworks by white Western men. So
Yeah.
it's all about unlearning, I suppose. Photography,
Yeah.
definitely, I probably can't speak about something else because I'm not proficient in something else as much. But yeah, I think that's definitely very important for everyone, really, like wherever you are, from whatever country or culture. It's just because of what we accept as the norm and whether that's the
Yeah.
norm, like questioning the norm and questioning what's normalized, I suppose.
Yeah. Yeah, I
And
agree.
sorry, I was just yeah, wondering if you can also tell us a little bit about how, I suppose, at least in my mind, Wahala has now grown into a platform, and it's no
Yeah.
longer. I suppose maybe you described it, sounds like it's a platform that functions in different ways, and maybe one of the first outputs is the magazine, but it's also like
Yeah.
quite more, because I think even Instagram, is an output of itself, and the way that you use it differs from a magazine or a talk, or like it could hold so many possibilities. So I basically, initially, I was just thinking about the workshops that you were doing last summer,
Yeah.
and whether you can tell us a little bit more about them as well.
Yeah, sure. Sure. Okay, so as I said, my focus with the magazine was literally getting African photographers seen by industry professionals. But as time went on and the Instagram and the website started to receive more traction, it developed, it expanded into a full-fledged platform just like for educating. So educating photographers on how to better their visual storytelling skills, you know, sharing resources and opportunities and grants as well. And I saw it become like a safe place, like a safe space for African photographers, because people would literally just DM us and say, look, thank you for showing up for us, and it was just a really nice feeling and a really nice realization that people see this platform as a representation that shows up for them. And I just realized it's literally an overall safe space for African photographers to share their wins, their learnings, and to grow together as photographers. And one way that came about as well is last year in July, we did a workshop slash mentorship session for 1 week where we basically got 14 African photographers and paired them up with established photographers. And the established photographers were their mentors, and the ones that were those that were participating were the mentees. And the name of the workshop was called Crafting a Compelling Photo Essay, because I realized that many photographs that I was seeing was not part of a body of work. It was just single images. And I realized that many people are not actually, making projects. They're not really making photo essays. So it was a workshop basically teaching what photo essays are, the history of photo essays, and how to basically come up with a photo essay, how to see what is it that you're interested in and make a project out of it. And it was a duration of 1 week, and their mentors would help them establish their ideas. Their mentors would help them edit their work, sequence their work. We had a session on sequencing, on captioning, on writing your narrative. It was really a very intense 1 week virtual session, but it was amazing to see the work that people produced in that 1 week, like really amazing work, some of which have been featured on World Press Photo Awards Instagram page. Some of the photographers that participated in the workshop have been entered into African photojournalism database by World Press Photos. You know, a lot of their work has been seen and has been featured on really big platforms. And this work was produced from the workshop. You know, it was amazing seeing their photography skills improve in the space of 1 week. And that really made me realize the power of No Wahala Magazine. Like, it's really helping photographers to improve their storytelling skills, and it's educating, and it's a space, you know, some of them are friends. You know, a lot of those that took part in the workshop are friends, and they hang out and they speak on a regular, and it's just such a nice feeling. So it's amazing how I had one idea and I just literally let it expand into something else, which is something I would definitely say to anyone watching. Like, if you have an idea, be open to seeing the direction that your idea will go and will expand into, because it will expand into something bigger than yourself, and you'll really be amazed. So yeah, onwards and upwards.
No, definitely. I think that's a really good advice and very motivational as well. And I was actually going to ask you, as you spoke about like the participants and like whether they formed relationships, but you kind of like you are
Yeah,
actually answered. And I was thinking how it's so fascinating for me because the first like how your platform, as you describe it, is a safe space for African photographers. Then it feels like it's a space where people can also connect with one another, and then
yeah,
I think it's so like fantastic that it's a platform that has started in the midst of a pandemic, in a time when everyone feels extremely lonely and confused, and like like many people have lost like a lot of opportunities, especially in the creative world, and you could feel like quite disconnected. So I feel like it's fantastic that you have and you are bringing people together in such an uncertain times where they probably need it even more than usually. And the workshop as well sounds really good, and especially how like very soon after you could see the results, like how this workshop
yeah.
has influenced not only people personally, but has helped them in their careers and in their achievements, which I think is super nice. Yeah, great, great work.
Thank you.
And I was also wondering if you can speak a little bit about self-publishing. And I think because when
Yeah,
we spoke last time, my question originally was about the challenges of self-publishing, because I think everyone who has given a shot at self-publishing knows that it's almost like
yeah,
this, unlimited space that you don't know where to even start from. But from
yeah,
our talk last time, I think I actually changed my question way of thinking to pose it to how actually there are quite a lot of positives and possibilities,
yeah,
although it's challenging. So yeah, if you can just
yes.
speak a little bit about that.
Yeah, sure. I mean, the first challenge is it's expensive. That's definitely the first challenge. It's very expensive. So if you're thinking of self-publishing, make sure that you've got some funding in place, because it's not cheap. So we did a GoFundMe to publish No Wahala Magazine, and we raised over £3,000. The target was £3,000 to cover the cost of printing and distribution and stuff. And we managed to raise over, which was quite nice. So obviously, GoFundMes are not sustainable. So we're looking into actually applying for funding and for grants and for sponsorships as well. But if you're starting off something, yeah, I guess a GoFundMe would be good. No Wahala Magazine is self-funded as well, so a lot of my salary and my husband's salary is going into it as well. So just make sure you have a good job. I mean, to be honest, I think you also need to think of the scope, because self-publishing doesn't necessarily mean that you need to publish whatever you're making in a factory. I think it's amazing that people are making use of zines. People are literally like, zines is really, it's always been around, but it's something that's being utilized much more, and it's more economically friendly, and there's so much to experiment with, and that is a positive with self-publishing that I love. You have the freedom to experiment as much as you want with different paper type, with different, kinds of ink and different kinds of design, because if you are linked to a publisher, obviously their branding is also there. So it may be quite restrictive. But if you're self-publishing, you have that freedom to do whatever you want, really and truly. So I think yeah, positive is that freedom, and a downside is that it's quite expensive. Another challenge as well is being knowledgeable on self-publishing. For example, I didn't know much about the difference between pages and leaves until we were printing. I finally learned that there's a difference between pages and leaves. So there's a lot of self-educating that needs to go into publishing. And I'm really grateful that I'm knowledgeable in publishing. I never used to be knowledgeable in publishing, even though it's something that we studied for a bit in uni. But I understand paper type, I understand paperweight, GSM, I understand, different types of ink and different types of printing. And now that's a positive of self-publishing because you're learning different things as well. So you're adding to your own skill set and your own knowledge. So yeah, it's really interesting. There's a lot of logistics that go into self-publishing in terms of where you're printing, different types of binding and stitching, and paper size and stuff. But in the end, it's really fun. It is really fun and stuff. But yeah, it can be a bit draining when you're just looking at paper and feeling paper and talking about paper and stuff. But it was a good experience. It's something that I'm really grateful for that I picked up whilst publishing the magazine.
Yeah, absolutely. I
Yeah,
mean, I think it's a whole new world in a way, and it's almost like you can know something, but there's always so much more to learn. But I think
yeah,
what's great, as you said, about the zines, is that you can think about alternative ways of making something
yeah,
so that you have like less cost, for example, or you again don't think of an addition of 2,000 books or like something insane.
yeah,
You think about a really small edition. But yeah, and then the start as well about the self-funding. I feel you there. We have been running this collective
yeah,
for many years now, and it's mainly based on self-funding. And whenever we would like get hired for work, again, the money most of the
yeah,
time would go into funding the next things that we will do, which feels like inevitable to kind of maintain yourself and survive, especially when you're not really a company, like you're not really making a product to earn
yeah,
profit from it, which I know is also the case with you. But
yeah.
yeah, I think that's some really great tips, I think. But also, I mean, can you just tell us, although I also know what some of the questions I'm just asking for people who listen, where can we find the magazine? Where can we have a look?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so the magazine is stocked across Nigeria. Um, so those that are in Nigeria, if you're based in Lagos or Abuja or Ibadan and all of those places, you can check out the website. The magazines are en route to the UK. Public announcement: my magazines have been lost by the parcel courier company, which is terrible and it makes me sad. We ship these magazines in January and we have people and organizations across the globe in Australia and Israel and Holland and Germany that are waiting patiently. So I am putting pressure on the parcel company that have lost my magazines. But anyways, we did ship some magazines to the UK to be stocked there and stuff. So once they have arrived, um, I will also update the website on where you can find the magazine. But I would also encourage people to fill out a form on my Instagram, on No Wahala Magazine's Instagram, on where they are and where they would like the magazine to be stocked, because we're reaching out to those places, basically asking if our magazines can be stocked there because customers are asking for it to be there. So that's where you can find it. And also, there's a PDF version available to download from the website. So if you go on www.nowahalamag.com, you can download a PDF version of our first issue called Safe Place for a small contribution, and that contribution will go towards the next issue and next events like workshops and talks and exhibitions. So yeah, that's where to find it. I'll type the website in. Yeah.
Thanks for that. I'm looking forward for the magazines to come to the UK as well. So I
Yes,
can have a
me
look.
too.
I've seen the digital one only for now, but excited to
Yes.
see it in print too.
Yes.
I
I mean,
also
really and
have
truly,
sorry.
I should have asked someone who was traveling to just put it in their suitcase, and I would have paid for the extra luggage. But we live and we learn, and that's a lesson for next time when it comes to distribution, how to distribute across the globe efficiently, really. So yeah, there's someone, her name is Anna, and she has an organization called Hydra, and she talks about how she's working to ship people instead of books, so that those books can actually arrive on the places on time instead of using parcel companies, because she's also facing the same issue. But it's all good.
Yeah, I think that's really funny, but also like quite realistic. I think it's probably just, you know, the Brexit situation going on in the pandemic and the post collecting
definitely.
from both.
That's what they
Which
said.
is
Yeah.
quite sad, but it's just the case. And I
Yeah.
think I'm just gonna go into my final question for you, which is if you could just tell us a little bit about what are. Actually, I have two questions. Maybe I'll ask you both. One is if you can tell us about the future of Wahala and like any plans that you're, you know, willing to share and are in secret for like second issue or the
Yeah.
workshops. And the other question I had was if you can speak a little bit about your own practice and how it ties to the practice
Yeah.
of being a part of Wahala.
Yeah. Okay, so first question. The future of Wahala Magazine is for it to expand into like a full-fledged organization that supports African photographers across the globe and those within the diaspora. So of course we will continue printing magazines, we will continue having workshops, but I want us to have like courses and trainings, kind of like a school, basically, like a full-fledged educational organization for African photographers to improve their storytelling skills, get seen, and just learn and grow. So that's the plan, and that's what I'm working towards. And I'm doing a lot of self-educating in terms of that. I'm part of a school, Work Show Grow School as well, which is really helping with ideas and just working on myself as well, so that I can put that into Wahala Magazine. So that is the long-term goal. That is definitely where I see us being, and that is what I'm working towards. And in terms of my own personal practice, so I make work, and my work is focused on, okay, so there's two things to my practice. I make work, personal projects on elitism within the art world, which is something that I've always been very interested in. Growing up in a working class family in London, really interested in art, really interested in galleries and going there and feeling, just seeing this elitism and this pretentiousness that is there. And I kind of make work that mocks that and that really examines that. So that's my personal practice. But in terms of writing, I also consider my writing practice as a form of art, because for me, writing is art, and I write a lot about ethics within photography and elitism within the art world and stuff. So that is what I do, and it's funny because
I think maybe has some connection difficulties. We can wait for like a few seconds for her to reconnect. So just be patient and stay with us here, guys. Thanks for everyone who joined as well. And hopefully she'll reconnect. Okay, I'm just going to try to just invite her back to the room. And hopefully that will work. Hello to everyone that's just joining. Our connection kind of dropped, so I'm just waiting for someone to join us, like Anthony. Sorry.
Hello.
Hi, Lena. Did I invite you by mistake?
I don't know, you invited me to join the live chat, so I thought, okay, I'll join.
You can
I joined the whole chat late, sorry.
I think
I heard I joined about 10 minutes in, so I heard most of it. It's really interesting. I really hope she comes back. Shall I leave so you can ask her to invite
I
to
invited
back?
her, but it's.
I don't know if more than 2 people can do
I
this
think you
though.
can do 3, but it's just.
Oh, wow. So she's based in Nigeria. Wow.
Yeah, she moved to Nigeria after she graduated from uni, and she spent like her, I suppose, her whole life in upbringing in London. So it's actually the first time she relocated. Hello,
Yeah.
I invited another person from Revolve by mistake in this live, so, so she was. We were just talking about
I
you,
don't
and I was
know what
waiting.
happened.
Hello. Hi, nice to meet you.
Sorry.
But I think I'm gonna
Hi.
come up. How
Nice
do
to
I
meet
go
you.
out now? It's
I
brilliant.
No,
think
feel
Sorry,
free to
guys.
stay. I mean, the more the merrier. Sorry about that. I hope I wasn't talking
Okay.
to myself this whole time. Like, were people able to
Um,
hear what I was saying?
not. I don't know. I think the last thing you were saying was just
Okay.
about your work and what you do.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Oh gosh. Exposing. Can people still hear me?
Yeah. So you were talking about your writing and how
Yeah.
you're interested in writing about the ethical side
Yeah.
of
Okay. Cool.
art.
So that
Um,
means everything I said has been heard. Okay. Great. Someone also typed it in. Thank you. Okay. Cool.
Oh, Laura's asking a
Laura.
question. Could you give
Yeah.
some advice on how can anyone learn more on the subject?
Sure. Of course. So I listen to a lot of subjects of ethics, Laura, to be precise. I'm assuming, if that is the question. Okay, yeah, I believe it is. I listen to a lot of podcasts, and there's a podcast that I listen to called Photo Ethics, the Photo Ethics Center, which is really interesting. And I also listen to Messy Truths, and that really helps. I watch their symposiums and stuff, and that really helps in terms of me understanding more about the ethical side to photography, and how other photographers also implement that in their work. I also read a lot. There's this amazing book by Jennifer Good on photojournalism and documentary photography. Oh my gosh, I'm trying to remember what it's called. But I read a lot of Jennifer Good's books as well. So I do a lot of reading on the subject. I listen to a lot of podcasts. And that's mainly it, really, and conversations as well. Just having conversations with other like-minded people who are into the same subject also helps. So yeah, that's my advice for those who want to learn more on the subject of ethical storytelling. Yeah, there's so many books. I came across so many books when I was writing my dissertation. So I did my dissertation on the objectification of African women within the National Geographic in response to their race issue. And I came across so much resources and material that speaks specifically on ethics within photography and exoticism and objectification. So yeah, a lot of research, but you'll find what will work for you.
I think that's
And when you write, oh, I'm sorry. I was just gonna ask when you write, what kind of what form does your writing take? I don't know. I
Yeah,
myself, I'm not a writer, and I actually find it really hard to. So, like, are
yeah.
you inspired by a piece of writing that you've read, or even a piece of work or a situation? Like, is your writing stories, or is
Yeah.
yeah? Does that make sense?
No, it makes sense. So
Sorry.
I'm usually inspired by. Can you hear me? Sorry,
Yeah.
before I continue. Okay, cool. I'm usually inspired by a situation. I always say that I make work as in response to something. So something will happen and I will make work in regards to that. So my writing is usually inspired by a situation, or by something I've read, or by something I've seen. So so for example, I wrote a piece on ethical storytelling part 1, And that was as a response to finding out that a South African photographer, actually wasn't even South Africa, I think he was Belgium, he was white, or Belgium, I think. And he took a picture of a South African woman who was HIV positive, and she was naked and her bones were showing, and it was just so degrading. And I was so disappointed and disgusted by what I saw, especially in a time where people are becoming more aware of ethical storytelling. And that is what propelled me to write. So yeah, I usually write as a response to something. And my writing is usually storytelling slash thesis. I'm a big geek, and I admit that with pride. And yeah, my writing style is usually as if you're reading a thesis, which can be quite boring. So I'm trying to, make it a bit more, bit more engaging. But yeah, and people like it surprisingly as well. People enjoy my writing style. So it's quite funny how sometimes you think your writing's a bit dead, and then people are actually engaged and reacting to it. So yeah.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
great.
I think that's really, really interesting. And I also thought about your own practice as well, and how when you started this answer of how you're inspired by situations, I thought how in your own photographic practice, I'm just thinking about this body of work, which is this kind of, let's say, portrait shot in the National Gallery. So I feel like they also hold this
Yeah,
connotation of a situation which, like, you stumble upon in your encounter, and you just kind of start to analyze it, and kind of see all of the layers or strip the layers of it, whether through words or through
yeah.
photography. I feel like that's present as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I always encourage people to experiment with multimedia, like experiment with images and text. I just feel like it brings a whole new dynamic to the work. So that's something I always encourage whenever I'm talking to photographers, and they're asking for advice and my opinion. I always encourage just experimenting and see where that experimenting will take you, and experimenting with text and images and sound and video and whatever you can get your hands on, really, to just add more depth.
Yeah, I think that we have like gone ahead with time, so maybe I can just open it up to questions of people here, or
Okay.
leaving results here in another forum. So yeah, if anyone has any questions, please drop them in the chat. That'd be great.
Yeah, but I hope everyone was able to hear everything despite the glitches, the technical glitches.
I find it quite exciting, knowing how far away you are and how the transmission of this call happening.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean it's still a surprise to me as well. I mean, you have one thing in your idea. You have one idea in your mind of what you want to achieve, and then it just transforms into something bigger, which was really interesting and something I discovered on the job. But it's nice. It's nice where it's taking us. It's definitely a lot of responsibility. I have a full-time job, and I have this, which is my passion project. And this alone, No Wahala Magazine alone, is a full-time job. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of balance. I had to learn how to balance time, and just make sure I'm putting my best into it. But yeah, it's really interesting.
Hmm. No, I think it's also really important work that you're doing, and that like your team as well is doing through the platform, and all of its different outputs that you guys have been working on. I think it's fantastic, and I'm actually looking forward to see the things that you do next, the second issue, or like your next workshops, or new photographers that
Yes.
you would like showcase on your own Instagram account.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, there's a lot more in store. I mean, we're working on the second issue, but obviously we want the first issue to be seen by people. Um, so yeah, once we sort out these shipping issues, and people can finally get their hands on the magazine, across the globe, then yeah, we will release information on the second issue. But until then, we're literally just holding back until we sort out the shipping issue we're in, and until more people are able to see the magazine and read the content and stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Okay, I think maybe we can wrap it up here. It's been great to talk to you, despite the technical
Yeah.
difficulties. I actually didn't have internet today when I woke up, so I was like quite worried that
Yeah.
oh god, this was like a normal me speaking about this.
It's so annoying. Like, literally, you have to just cross your fingers and hope internet will be fine. That's why I can't wait till things open up. You can start having physical events and stuff. But yeah, even though these events are really great because it's a bigger platform and more access for everyone. But yeah, internet can really just kill things sometimes.
Yeah, totally. And I think we've also reached the point of, too much screen time all the time, or just
Yeah.
that being like
Yeah.
our life and existence. So it would feel nice to not have to stare in front of your device and meet people only to, like,
Yes.
to their waist, to their
Exactly.
chest. But
Yeah.
yeah, okay, cool. Thanks so much, Anne, for agreeing, for joining, for sharing some really inspiring ideas and thoughts. And yeah, it's been great to talk to you. Thanks again.
Yeah, thank you for having me, and I'm looking forward to the next talks as well. So I know there are other talks lined up. So yeah, I'll be on the other side watching
Yeah,
and
yeah,
asking away. Yeah, but thank you for having me. It was a pleasure, and yeah,
yeah.
download
Thanks,
No
thanks
Wahala
again.
Magazine
Yeah,
to those that are
and
watching. Yeah,
mm, and in terms of thanks for reminding me as well. The next event will happen in 2 weeks on Thursday, not Friday like now. It will be from I think 6 to 7 p.m. British summer time, and it's between Ibi Azak, who's one of the members of the collective, and Ron Mackenzie, and they'll speak about her gallery space, which is also a multidisciplinary space and like a platform for emerging creatives. So
yeah,
tune in then as well to hear another like interesting conversation.
amazing.
Thanks, Anne. See, I
Thank
hope to see you
you.
soon or later.
Yes,
Yeah. Okay, cool.
thank you. Bye, everyone. Thank you for having me.
Bye.
Bye.